They took the things from the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all the Israelites, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold wedge, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, "Why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today." Then all Israel stoned him. And after they stoned the rest, in other words, his family, they burned him. Now that's pretty harsh sounding. I want us to look at a few things that he did, and then we're going to look at that last part, because I don't know about you, but it seems like God's being kind of harsh here. Okay? And he's God, he can do whatever he wants, but I want us to look at that, just in case you're thinking, man. We're going to look at that. But before we look at that, I want us to look first of all, and you got in your notes there, the three things that Achan did. And these three things that he did was the progression that he went down that removed God's favor from him and the people that he hung around. The people that he worships with. Okay? Number one is he saw. Okay? He saw. S-A-W. Look at what it says here in verse 21. It says, "When I saw in the plunder, or the spoils, the stuff, a beautiful robe and the money and all this stuff." Okay, so number one, he saw. Now, is seeing something a sin? Not necessarily. But look at this. Your eyes and your ears are the doorway to your mind. Let me say it one more time. That's not your nose, but right there if you want. Your eyes and your ears are the doorways into your mind. And listen, you don't ever do anything that you don't first think about it. Do you hear me? You will never do anything that you don't first think about doing. And you can find example in my life, examples in people like King David's life, and probably in your life, of things that you thought you would never do. I'll never do that. I'll never go there. And one day you wake up and you're like, what have I done? And it all started, if you can backtrack, it all started when you either saw, you heard, something began to take place and birth in your mind. And so Achan saw, number two, let me read you a verse real quick before we go to Romans 12:2. Look at this. "Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Notice this verse here. The whole verse hinges on your mind. It says, don't be conformed to this world, but instead be renewed in your mind. In other words, how do you battle being conformed to the world, but yet still impact the world? You got to take care of your mind. And then the last part of this verse says, so that you may know what the will of God for your life is. How many of you want to know what God's will for your life is? I know I got about 17, 18 seniors in my class that are getting ready to graduate that would love for God to throw down a little airplane down to them that says, boom, here's the next 5 years of your life planned out for you. Just follow this. This is what I want you to do. But that's not how God works. This is how God works. He says, take care of your mind, and then therefore you will end up knowing what God's will for your life is. That's a powerful truth. Because if you think about it, think about the sins that you fall to. How many of them started in your mind? All of them? Would you agree? Every one of them? You know, some of you sexually, you've gone way farther than you ever thought you would go. But it all started somewhere way back with a fight. Some of you with drugs. Man, does anybody think that somebody grows up and, man, I hope I'm a drug addict one day? That's my dream. No. But there's drug addicts all around us all the time. Maybe even here tonight. And you're a victim of what? Of one day, a thought that you let birth in your mind and you act upon it. And that brings us to the second thing that he did. Number one, he saw. Number two, verse 21, look at this. He says, when I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylon, 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them. In other words, I wanted it. And and it's like you either go or you don't go. You're in the backseat of the car, girl, with a guy you know you don't need to be with, and you're like, you either go or you don't go. And right here is the balance. You don't go, you stay faithful to God, and all of a sudden God's favor is on your life, and boom, you go down a road of blessing and God using you. You mess up, and all of a sudden God removes His favor, just like He did here, and you end up blowing it. You know, we all blow it. So if you've blown it, don't give up, stay with me for a second. But here we go, He's like, I coveted this. And so he's looking at this covenant. Has He sinned yet? He saw something. I'm sure everybody saw something. There's gold laying around we're not supposed to get. Now He's coveting it, okay? He's wanting. The Bible says thou shalt not covet, so in a sense, yeah, He's sinning. But listen, I don't know, and I should have studied that word a little bit more. Maybe it meant that, yeah, He coveted in a sinful way, or maybe it meant, man, whoa, dude, I want that. But we have to believe He probably sat there and thought about it for a while. And He thought over. It's kind of like, guys, if you see a girl not dressed appropriately, at your first glance, is that a sin? You're like, whoa, man. When does it become a sin? When you begin to lust in your mind. You begin to covet her. And that's with any sin. So here He is coveting this. But He didn't stop there, so we know He sinned. What did He do? And that's number 2. He took. So He saw, and He coveted it, and He took it. Number 2 is He took it. And this word became sin. Jesus was tempted, the Bible says. Has Jesus ever sinned? No. He's perfect. He's without sin. He's not good man, He's God man. He's without sin. And so don't beat yourself over temptations. We all get tempted. But it's when you act upon your temptation, and that's what He did here. It becomes sin. When He saw He was tempted, temptation did not become sin until you act upon it. Whether in your mind or in a physical. It doesn't mean you have to go physically do something for your thought to become a sin. You can do it in your mind, then you can't be sin. Does that make sense? Okay. So number 2, we've got to move fast, we're not out of time. Number 1, He saw. Number 2, He took. Number 3, what did He do? Look at this. He says, I took this stuff, I covered and took it. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent. So what did He do, number 3? He hid it. He hid it. He saw, He took, and He hid. Isn't that what we do? How many of you sin and you're like, man, I hope the whole world finds out about this. I hope my church knows. I hope I put an argument. No, what do we do? We want to hide it. We want to hide it. Newsflash. It ain't hidden. The Bible says that everything lays bare before God. There's nothing that you do in your closet at home where you think nobody's looking, that God does not know and doesn't see. It is not hidden. Note to self. It ain't hidden. And you might hide it from people for a while. The Bible says our sins will find us out. I've seen that to be true in my life and others as well. It ain't hidden. So look at this. Achan sees that God has removed His favor and His blessings, and he's about to be caught. It's a great opportunity for the cameras to start rolling around, and somebody to shout, I want to get away with it. But a little more serious here than some dude throwing a weed controller on the TV, right? And I don't know about you, maybe your life is kind of like this right now. Maybe you have to belong it. And you know there's not a doubt in your mind God has removed His favor in your life. Things are just falling apart. And sometimes just because things fall apart,